Oh, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. This is going to be great. Talking about relationships and making you sick. And I already had some people reach out to me about it. So this is really great. And we are live on Skills Not Pills movement. Skills Not Pills movement is an oasis of hope and inspiration where you can learn self-mastery skills and become your own health CEO. It is a community of like-minded people who know that healing and total transformation are possible because we have claimed our own cures. Check out our free live event coming up that has already been recorded, and it is on our website at skillsnotpillsmovement.com. You can watch it. It's all about destruction and reinvention, and that is for free at skillsnotpillsmovement.com. Now, today we are having a conversation about the impact of being in a difficult or even toxic relationship, and that can have an impact on your health. Research shows that chronic stress and anxiety can play a huge part in developing acute or chronic illness. We'll look at those interactions and how they affect your health and well-being. You may not have realized the effects of a controlling, demanding, or abandoning parent on you, and those effects will play out in all of your relationships. There's a lot to talk about here. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and joining us today is Dr. Shaler, who is a relationship consultant, mediator, speaker, and author. Dr. Rhoberta Shaler is the relationship help doctor. She provides urgent and ongoing care for relationships in crisis. Her mission is to help people stop tolerating abuse. Even the United States Marines have sought her help. Wow, that's pretty cool. So I know that you've written a number of books, including Escaping the Hijackal Trap and Stop That Crazy Making, How to Stop Playing the Passive Aggressive Game. Ooh, that is a good one. So tell us more about how do relationships impact our health?
Well, we are a vibrating sack of molecules, Carrie. So everything affects our health. And so frequently we don't think about it. We think about it strictly as some bacteria, some virus, something happened to us, maybe an injury. But our health is in flux every minute of every day. And so everything is impacting us. And when we get, things like chronic inflammation or inflammatory diseases, there's usually something that is going on emotionally that is also working on that. Not directly cause and effect, perhaps, don't know, have to work with a person individually to find out. But there will be irritants that are causing someone. Like here's a statistic from a wonderful, wonderful physician in Canada, Gabor Mate. And he said that women, now you have to have these two things, women with chronic stress and anxiety at the same time, being female, are 9 times more likely to get breast cancer than
Nine
those
times
without
more likely.
Chronic stress and anxiety. And much of that, I have clients all over the world because I can work this way through video conferencing. And when I'm helping them with their relationships and we come across situations where you have these very difficult people, whether they're I call them hijackals, but those would be people with tendencies to be antisocial or histrionic or narcissistic or whatever. And they just are tiring to be around. They wear you down and tear you down, and they're at you all the time. This creates chronic stress and anxiety. You're afraid that somebody's going to come home and, are they going to complain again? Are they going to find fault? Or what are they going to do? And you're already anticipating that. So you put your body on high alert. And when you do that, you kind of wear things out. And so the body complains. So that's what we're talking about today.
Wow, I really resonate with this. I haven't shared this a lot. Sometimes I have, but as a result of my former relationship, for 20 years, I was in a relationship with somebody who had a gift for being critical, had a gift for finding what was wrong. Actually, he gets paid great money to do that, for his high-tech jobs. They pay him wonderful money to do that because he's really good at it, but it's not a great skill at home. And that stress, that ongoing stress, actually, when I left the relationship about 9 months later, I found out that I had a cyst on my right ovary that was the size of a Texas grapefruit. And that's like this big. Like they had to drain it. You know, like I'm
Mhm.
exaggerating, but like this is a Texas grapefruit right here.
Right.
They had to drain it to even take it out.
Mhm. And look where it was. It was on your uterus
Yeah.
in that whole idea of creating life, right?
Yes. Yeah, all the things
So,
I wanted to create in my life. I'm a very creative person, and it was
yeah. Yeah.
difficult in that relationship.
Yeah, so and the whole idea of reproduction in any kind, and there it was, being stimulated there. Now, like I said earlier, we can't say cause and effect. It's not this will create that, but it is this whole thing. I used to own a holistic health and yoga retreat center on Vancouver Island in Canada, and for 8 years, most of my clients were people with life-threatening diagnoses and their families. So I've done a lot of work in this field, and so it's very important for us to realize that we're 100% responsible for our health. And if things are going on in our relationships that are chronic and anxiety producing, and we're not happy, and we're continuously not happy, and we've looked at ourselves to see, am I the cause of my unhappiness? And the answer is, I don't think so. Maybe you got some help to look at that and say, is there something I could do differently? And you tried everything. And if you're in a relationship with a hijackal, yes, there are lots of things you can try. But the thing is, what you're building and empowering yourself to do is to be strong enough to withstand a lot of things that come your way, know how to respond to them, but it doesn't mean there's going to be change. But you will be empowered by learning those things. But then you may have to realize that, wow, this pattern's really familiar because I had a parent like that, right? And now I chose a partner like that quite unconsciously, and it perpetuated the pain. So it's so important for us to look at our relationships when we're looking at anything that's going on with our health.
Yes, totally. You know, and I definitely, as you know, I've been down that journey of looking at it because, as you say, it is our responsibility. Once we become aware that there's a problem that we're experiencing in our health, it really, you know, becomes our responsibility to figure
Mhm.
out like how we want to be in relationship with that and what we want to do about that and how we want to change that. And I have, you know, that's a tricky thing because it's sort of like this, is it me or is it this person? Is it this dynamic? Is it us? Is it, you know, in my experience, it's a ball of wax. So
Well,
tell
it
us more
is.
about it because you've got some clarity with it.
Yeah, it is a ball of wax, but on the other hand, it's different than a ball of wax because that means it's all jammed in together. We can actually take the pieces out, you know. Um, Teaching people, my retreat center was called Serenity Farm Retreat. So people would come to the farm and they'd want to talk. Of course, they'd want to work with me directly, or they'd want to come and take a seminar. They might want to take some yoga classes or relaxation classes or meditation classes or whatever, and we'd have to take it apart. Okay, what are you doing for your health generally? How much water do you drink? How's your hydration? How many times does a doctor ask you that, or a naturopath will ask you that every time? And you go, oh, yeah, yeah, I drink a lot of water. But do you?
Yeah, that actually I do.
Yeah, there you
Now.
go. Perfect segue. But the fact is that we're 80% water. So it's not rocket science to realize that we need good quality water. So you start looking at yourself and you're saying, well, what am I actually doing that is taking care of me? And as women, often we'll find ourselves far more involved in taking care of other humans. And yes, we have to do that because we gave birth to these humans or we have arrangements to, but that doesn't mean we fall off the edge. We are not there if we get sick. So we must give to ourselves first, you know. Yes, I've written lots of books, but one of the things that I write frequently is to remember you cannot give a gift you do not have. If I want to give you this coffee mug or water mug as it is, I need to have it to give it to you. I can want to give it to you all in every way, but unless I have it here, I can't say, here, Carrie, have this. And so that's the same thing about our health. That's the same thing about our sense of well-being, our peace, all of those things. We have to have the gift to give it.
It's
And
so
we,
important. I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday actually about this topic. A friend of mine was telling me how, she really has felt like this urge to go away for 3 days and have a retreat where she just is
right?
for herself and just no kids. She's got like 3 kids and a husband and a business and like a lot going on. And she just like, I just need 3 days just to just decompress and not owe anybody or have to do anything for anybody or have to figure out anything and just be. And she can't get her husband to say yes to the trip. And I was like, well, this is one of those moments where you just go, I need this and I'm going to do it. And people
Yes.
will say it's selfish, but I learned in the course of my trials and errors of giving stuff I didn't have, giving what I didn't have, giving this here, giving this over there, the kids, the husband, the projects, the movements that I'm always involved in some kind of leadership thing, and giving more than I had left me feeling drained and bitter and angry underneath all. And
True.
then all this pressure I put on myself to keep being nice.
Yeah.
That right there, the nice thing, I think is a ripe topic.
Well, it is because basically what you're describing is building resentment. And then because we as women, we're hardwired to nurture. So then we beat ourselves up when we say, oh, I'm going to leave my children for 4 days. And I advise your friend to go for 6, because she needs more than she thinks she needs, and 3 days won't do it.
Right.
So if she's going to step out, go for the whole week. But it's important for us because we are so busy taking care of others by our biological nature to start with. And then we forget ourselves. And if we don't have that balancing every day, we're never balanced, in my opinion. We're always balancing. And if we're giving way more than we have to give, we are going to go into resentment. Then we're going to beat ourselves up for not, the time when we yell at the kids and we didn't want to, and we're going to beat ourselves up for not being a good mother or not having it together. And in actual fact, we just haven't stopped and said, what do I need?
Yeah, stepping over our feelings. Like I'm only now learning to not step over my feelings. Like because I got so good at masking them even for myself because I just had to keep going,
Right.
and as an entrepreneur, I have my own business. And so I never could just relax on the dole. I mean, I had a corporate job for a while and that was very relaxing for me actually because I didn't have to, it wasn't so hard. When you work for yourself, it's constantly going. And when you're a mom, you've got this responsibility. I think this is something that people don't realize. And maybe you have something to say about this too, is that when you're a mother, actually there's more energetic drain on you, I think, than
Yeah.
on fathers. Like I realized that the kids, even I realized it recently with my stepchildren, that they were with me for a week when my husband was gone. I could feel my energy getting drained. And I stopped for a moment with awareness and I was like, what is going on here? And when I checked into it, I realized they were plugged into me. They were like tapped in to my
Yeah.
energy field. And
Right.
so they're pretty awake little kids. So I was able to have a conversation with them and say, "Hey, are you tapped into me?" And they were like, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Okay, can you be a tree? Can you just be a tree and tap into the
Take
source
your
that's
own
way
roots.
bigger than
Yeah.
me?" I said, "The earth is bigger than me, okay? The earth is
I
way
don't want
bigger."
to. I don't want to be your jumper cable
No,
24/7.
I don't have that much energy. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. I think there's some things we could learn, but what are some ways it shows up? Because what you just said was really triggering for me as a memory of like the reservoir of resentment. Like if we don't have a way of taking care of ourselves, it's like this reservoir builds up, and then like any little thing can set it off, and then you can beat yourself up over it. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that's so important, and it's so almost built in that we don't even realize it because we've got that cycle going where we're making ourselves wrong for feeling resentful, and then we don't stop and say, why am I feeling resentful? What could I do about that? We get into the the self-talk about, oh, I'm not a very good mother, and maybe I should get a job because it's too much to handle. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. I raised 3 kids on my own, working full-time, and finished my PhD. I know what all that's about. And I had to, at one point, we lived in a condominium that had 1 bathroom, and I put a sign on the door, and it said, unless you're bleeding, don't knock, on the bathroom door, because I had to have a place. I didn't have enough money to have babysitters. I had to have one spot where I could just get away. So there are things that we need to learn to do for ourselves. One of the things is, aside from drinking lots of water, and I mean water, that coffee doesn't count, water, or time, taking time, mental vacations, connecting with source, putting your feet in the sand, putting your feet on grass, connecting, like you were talking about that tree. How do you get connected to the earth? I had a friend the other day, who's sort of a pseudo friend client now, but she's really having a difficult time. She left her corporate job. She had a window of opportunity to get a really great deal, and she left. But it's really been a hard transition from her. And she said, I don't know what to do. And I know her really well. So I said, do you have a CD of some really tribal, heavy African music? Could you find it on Pandora or something? She said, I could. Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to consider going out in the backyard. We live in Southern California, so you can do that most days. Go out in the backyard, take your shoes off, bend your knees, put the music on, and allow yourself to get deeply into those bent knees, connect, connect, connect. And she thought I was nuts. And I could see on her face, this corporate person, paralegal, like, are you sure? I mean, she trusts me. She used to come to my spiritual
They're
classes,
asking me to
but
be weird.
but she trusts me, and I knew that she did. But this was kind of an unusual request. And 2 days later, I got an email. She said, oh, I can't tell you how much better I feel. I did that. And I'd said to her, if you don't feel like going outside, do it in your living room with the music as loud as possible, so you get the vibration of the music. And it's that required thing to stop and be with yourself and ground yourself into the present moment, to bring your body into alignment. Cyndi Lauper said one day when she was interviewed that before she sings, she stands in the wings and she jumps up and down on bended knees to really get into her body. And we need to do that, because we'll slide up here and like, oh, I know how I should be. And, you become that periscope trying to figure everything out, and you're not in your body.
Yeah, most people live like here up,
Yeah,
and the rest of the body's like crying for attention. And I think that's where this disease comes from. Because
sure.
if we would just be in our bodies fully all the way down to the toes, and this is what I learned in energy medicine school, is they were saying, Carrie, nobody grounds. And so most people are walking around with their energy like lifted up off the earth by at least a
That's
foot.
right. Yeah.
And our rubber shoes don't help. The rubber shoes keep us from connecting because they keep the electrical current from passing from the earth into our bodies. So
Okay.
those rubber shoes do not serve us. And so going barefoot is actually, they've actually proven this, like barefoot on the earth is really healthy. It actually reconnects you to the biorhythm of the earth, which puts you back in your body. And you can
Mm-hmm.
feel, but people don't want to feel, Rhoberta.
Well, no, they don't. And there's also, we're talking about energy. Let's think about the chakras. Here, the throat chakra is the center of communication. Yeah, well, you might think about that as communication outward, speaking or doing, but let's think about it as the communication between the head and the heart and the body. And if we're just in our head and we're stopped here, which so many times people coming to me are, they don't even want to express what's wrong. And if you're in a toxic relationship and you try to express what's wrong, you'll get squashed like a gnat. Like, who wants to hear about what's going on for you? There are things to be done, and for me. And so this becomes absolutely essential to look at. Like, how do you ground yourself? You drink the water, you you walk around with no shoes, you intentionally connect with the earth or the grass or the sun. You know, it's very important for us to spend 10, 15 minutes a day in the sun with no eyeglasses on in order to allow the rays to permeate our pineal glands. And, you know, there's simple things. They don't cost anything, but they make a huge difference. And then do you sit quietly? You know, one of the many books that I wrote, I wrote with my partner. It's called Soul Solitude, taking time for our souls to catch up. Do you actually take time for your soul to catch up? Do you sit quietly? You know, when I sent my daughter as a professional editor and I sent her the book to edit, didn't hear from her for days and days and days, which is unusual. So I said, "What's wrong? Don't you like the book?" She said, "I'm angry." I said, "Why are you angry?" She said, "Page 111. I looked up the book, like, what's on page 111 that would make anybody be angry? Here's page 111. It says, "There is no drama in soul solitude. You cannot fail. There is no technique." I said, "Why does that make you so angry?" She said, "Well, I've been able to tell myself I can't meditate because I don't know how."
Yeah, a
So,
lot of people say that. But
yeah,
there, you know, really meditation actually is sitting and being still and listening to all the stuff
exactly.
that's going on
Yeah,
inside of you. And it's a lot of stuff at first. Like it's a cacophony at first
sure. And
because you
you know,
haven't been
as
listening for a
no, and
while.
I said to her, you know, it's simple. Sit, fall silent, listen. That's all you have to do. Sit, fall silent, and listen. And eventually, the noise will slow down. Eventually, you will relax into your body. Use your breath. I think the most luxurious, least expensive vacation in the world is a deep breath. You know, to just stop, inhale deeply through your nose, hold it. Exhale fully through your mouth. Reoxygenate all of your cells. Do you know, in that one breath, if you hold your breath for 20 seconds, that one breath of oxygen goes entirely around your blood system. 20 seconds. It picks up all the carbon dioxide, gets rid of it, puts the oxygen in. Away you go. No price tag except remembering to give yourself the gift of a deep breath. So you got water, you have that available. You have a deep breath available. You have a chair or outside or the ground or somewhere that you can go and sit for 10 or 15 minutes. Sit, fall silent, and listen. Get back in tune with yourself. Get back in tune with the world. Give yourself some listening. What's going on in there? And you know, you'll find that your shoulders will fall back away from your earlobes when you do some deep breathing. In Soul Solitude, I invite people always to do 3 breaths that we call 4-7-8 breaths. So you inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, exhale completely through your mouth for a count of 8, and do that at least 3 times until you start to feel that thing. Now, free, absolutely free. Don't have to go to a doctor, don't have to pay anything for those 3 things alone. And then you could have the back of grocery bags if you need to write on. What did I think about? What came to me? What did I feel? Just debrief it with yourself a little bit, and you'll begin to sort out. Because imagine if you don't, and you hear me say, as I said at the beginning of the show, that Gabor Mate's research says that women in chronic stress and anxiety relationships have 9 times more likelihood to get breast cancer, to actually develop breast cancer 9 times more frequently. Isn't that stunning? Isn't that something that would cause you to say, I need to do something about this?
Yeah, and listening to that stress, no matter what that stress is. I mean, that stress could be I need to speak up about something and I can't because, or I feel I can't because if I speak up, I'm going to have another battle to fight. You know, I
Right?
definitely lived that way for 20 years. It's like, well, I have to pick my battles. Um, And it has also a lot of like taking on other people's energy. I learned in my processing is taking responsibility for things that weren't actually mine, you know, and but
Yeah.
that was part of the fear of speaking up, is I was going to have to take on more stuff or going to have confronted by more things.
Or
And I think
blamed.
that, or blamed, you know, and that confrontation energy is super challenging to cope with, but it can also go the other way. Like you can have stress because you finally get into a good situation and you feel like you don't deserve it somehow. So there's stress that way, you know,
Well,
too.
there's
So
stress and letdown too, Carrie. That, that's what I was saying about that woman you were talking to. I am 100% on your side. Go. Whether your husband likes it or not, if you really need it, set it up so it doesn't impinge on your husband in any way, except he's annoyed you're not there. And go give yourself what you need to. But why I say give yourself a week, not 3 days, because it's going to take you at least 2 days to come down, and 1 day to restore is not enough. We have to recognize that we've got this huge buildup, most of us, of stress, stress, stress. And it doesn't go away just because we spend a day at a spa. We all know that. But it won't go away in 3 days either. So if you know that you're in that space, do that. When I work with people who are single parents, because I was one for so long, the research shows that you need to be away for those kids for a full 48 hours before you begin to truly relax. Because you're listening, you're on guard, you're
yeah.
and so it requires that. So I would say, find a way to be without your children for 48 hours at least once a month.
And I think it's really important to keep up with your personal development work. You know, like in my current partnership, this wasn't possible in my other partnership, but in this partnership, which is so wonderful, is that we'll take turns. You know, he'll have the program for a year, and he'll go on these retreats and go work on himself, and he'll be gone for a week, and I'll hold down the fort while he goes away for a week to work on himself. He'll come back, and then I'll go away for something to work on myself. And that, you know, that gives you time and space to focus in on your personal growth and your evolution, which we actually made the focus of our relationship. Is, you know, number one is soul evolution, which is essentially, you know, source, God, creator. That's first. And then second is this love partnership, you know, and the family and everything that comes within it. So I think if, you know, I think part of this is like balancing things in correct relationship for you, whatever your belief systems are, to put things in the right relationship so that you can have a situation where both people are feeling nourished and heard and felt. And, you know, like you said, if people never take the time to drop into their own feelings, they're just kind of racing from one thing to the next, and the ego's totally in charge. And I mean, people go to work and they have meetings like back to back to back to back all day, never have a moment to even practically go to the bathroom, and then come home and of course the relationship's going to be challenged. It's going to be stressed.
Well, information needs processing. So if you go from meeting to meeting to meeting, when do you process what happened in the meeting? When is that important part that they hired you for to stop and go through your filter and say, what do I think about this? So the same thing is true. We have to teach our children to debrief things. We have to teach ourselves to debrief things to ourselves, or with a person that maybe our partner that, I was working with a couple yesterday, and after years, they're finally learning to become each other's friend. They can say something without the other one saying, well, you shouldn't feel like that, or are you saying it's my fault, right? To be able to be in a non-judgmental place and feel safe and trust that nobody's going to jump on you, that you can be fresh and new in this moment. You don't have to be who you were 2 days ago or 20 minutes ago. You can have a fresh perspective. But that's a very emotionally mature relationship. And that's, I hope, where we're all headed. Because what you're describing with your partner is, okay, we value this because we all benefit from each one of us going and doing this. We're bringing it back to the family and growing and debriefing it, right? Here's what I learned. Here's what I experienced. Here's what I felt. And we need to do that. I always say that strong people work with professionals. Because if you don't care about who you are and you don't care about life getting better, you'll go and complain to your friends. And complaining is a wonderful negative full-time resource for making you feel worse.
Yeah, and ruining your relationship even more. You know,
Yeah.
I think that another thing that's really different for me this time around is that any topic is open for discussion, you know, so we can have feelings, like feelings can come up and we could be like, oh, wow, I'm really feeling uncertain right now about this, that, or the other, or I'm feeling really triggered by this or that. And to have that be okay, because it's not, you know, there's not a defensiveness. Like the defensiveness, I think, comes in when nobody has time to process, you know, when everyone's sort of running around
Right.
and no time to drop into themselves, their cup's not full. And when our cup's not full and we're constantly giving from a depleted place, every little thing feels like a criticism and, you know, a blame thing, when in fact, if your cup is full, you can be in a space of compassionate witness, like, wow, you're really having a tough time with that. I'll check that
Exactly.
out. I'll see if there's something to do I could change, but let's just acknowledge you're having a tough time. Okay.
Yeah, we're just talking about what's going on in this minute. It's not about every moment up to my life now and every moment in the future. I'm having this feeling right now, and I want someone to share it with, and I want that person to be curious about it and ask me a question or two. Another thing, I've written all these books, but in the book Kaizen for Couples, this is where I put all the stuff that I work with my couples with, and to be able to, as you say, drop into that place together and say, I'm feeling this, and the other person is not saying, oh, it's my fault you feel this. You've got the maturity to say, oh, that's interesting. How long have you felt that way? What triggered it? Do you know? What intrigues you about that feeling? And so they lean in and they become curious. And now we have partnership. But if we're not emotionally mature, then we want, like, what are you saying? I'm supposed to fix that, or it's my fault you feel like that? And they go into those places, and that's volatile. And if you happen to be with a hijack, all those people that I work with, the partners and the exes and the adult children of, you're used to being second guessed like that. Like, who are you to have a feeling? What do you mean? It's all about me.com, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't want to be in those relationships behaving that way. That's unhealthy. It's unhealthy for your children. So do something to learn about yourself, to learn some strategies to empower you to try some different things, see what kind of growth there is possible, and then make some decisions for yourself, because we can't live with chronic stress and anxiety in our relationships. Nowhere else either, but I'm really concerned about people living in those chronic stress and anxiety within relationships.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if people could make it safe in their relationship to bring up anything where the other person doesn't take it personally and it doesn't start a fight, but it's just a witnessing of something going on. And then
Yeah,
you feel free to speak it. And once you've spoken it, maybe you can sort it out and then you see, oh, that was from this other thing, or that was this old thing and
exactly.
that has nothing to do with you or me or this current situation. It just came up and I just needed to talk about it.
Yeah, and also when we talk, we hear ourselves. And when we're having the conversation internally, we don't. And so when it gets outside of us and we say it and we hear it, we respond to it differently. So to have someone that we can say it with, preferably our partner, who isn't feeling threatened by the fact that we have a feeling, um, or a friend, who's a really close friend, or, whomever it is, but that they're not threatened by it. They jump in and become curious about it with you. That's so refreshing. That's helpful.
Yeah, and that creates flow. And I definitely am experiencing that flow now. And I've experienced the other way of, you know, being afraid to bring things up. My throat's all blocked because I don't want to say anything because I know it's going to start a fight. And and then that led to all kinds of problems in my body, even you know,
Yeah.
I was a marathon runner. I mean, I ran marathons to, you know, to get out of the house. It's because I had to process the energy somehow. You know, I was upset and angry a lot, you know, in that relationship because I couldn't speak my truth because it
Right.
wasn't safe. And if I brought stuff up, it'd be a big fight.
Yep.
So, you know, if you're in that spot, you know, it's a really good idea to do what Dr. Rhoberta Shaler is recommending here, and just take some time and really face your inner turmoil and be with it, even though it's uncomfortable, and listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. At the very least, you've got to listen to you.
And know that you deserve to take up space and draw breath. Know that you matter at that level. That this, there's no accidents. Just think about it for a second. One egg, a gazillion sperm, on a particular day, they met each other, and that's you. What are the odds? And you're here. So you want to live fully. And your opportunity is that you embrace living fully, that you embrace growing, that you embrace the idea of emotional maturity, and that you listen to something like our conversation today and say, am I actually playing on my own team for my best overall health? What am I personally doing for my best overall health? What am I contributing to the relationship that will give it the best chance to be an emotionally mature relationship? And then after you've done your own work, and I always recommend that, even when I'm working with people, couples, I say if there's no physical or sexual abuse in a difficult relationship, work with me first. Let's get all these things worked out. Try everything. Get your head on straight, your values, your vision for your life, your beliefs, your next best steps. And then we'll work on making the should I stay, should I go? And then step forward. Let's not be in a rush just because I don't like it very much.
Yeah.
Use it as an opportunity to learn about yourself, to fully explore that, and then move forward because you really do matter. And your life is too precious to be spending it with being oppressed or depressed. And you have a lot to do with that. Yes, for some people, we've got um, different biochemical factors that are occurring. You need help with that. But for the general populace, our stress is what we're accepting. And so we need to take a good look at that and say, yes, I think about this one person, a mother who talked to me years and years ago, so far long ago that she still had a house with a shag carpet. And she
Wow.
said to me, you know, I hate it when the kids come home from school. I've worked all day. I've raked the shag carpet. Everything is perfect. And I sit down and have my tea. And then the kids come in and they leave their footprints right across the carpet. And I said, okay, I get this now. Your self-esteem is tied up in the perfect house.
Mhm.
What if we reframe this? That the next time you're sitting there with your cup of tea and you see the kids' footsteps through your beautiful shag carpet, and no doubt it was avocado or burnt orange, uh, you look at those footsteps and you say, wow, someone I love is home.
Yeah, that's a whole different space to hold it in.
Right. But first of all, we have to realize that looking at those footprints causes me stress. What am I capable of doing that would allow me to see a different way? And that's why we need help from people who can hold the space for us to process. And that's why professional help is so important. Because when you want someone who does just that in their life, they're not a mechanic and a farmer and a dentist and a cook. They just do this one thing, and you go there because you don't pull your own teeth or do your own surgeries. And you say, I just want you to hold the space and look at this with me. That's smart.
Yeah,
That says
absolutely.
you matter, right? So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, I can manage, I can manage, I can do it. Now I've heard all this, I'm fine. Well, maybe you will be. But maybe it'll pop up again. And at that moment, whether that's now or another time, think about what would it be like to just have someone hold that space for you so that you could wander around in it, right? And not have to power on and make it, right? And then you would be reducing your possibility of creating some kind of dis-ease in your body that would come from that stress and anxiety.
Yeah, and I can definitely speak to that, having had a physical consequence from 2 decades of, you know, stuffing my
Yeah.
feelings, and I was even in psychotherapy, so there you go. But
Yeah.
now I see that that it's important for us to see that this is not about fixing you. This isn't about fixing anything that's broken. This is about, evolving. This is about learning about ourselves and evolving and seeing a new way. It's like things that you didn't realize, or connections, like you said, that it's easier for somebody else on the outside to make connections to help you see things. And it's so hard. We can't see our own eyebrows, like you cannot see your own eyebrows. You always need
Right.
somebody else to help you to see it. So that's what I enjoy about this work. I love working with my coaches, and I love doing this stuff too with my clients, because I love this whole thing. You're right. It's kind of it's a certain kind of brain that loves to process this kind of stuff. It's like dedicate yourself
Yeah,
to figuring it out. So it's just fun. At least
it
for me, I
is.
think it's fun.
Me
So
too.
I love it. It's great. Other people, this is like torture, but to us, this is awesome. So if you're
Yeah,
looking for that support, Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, you've got a couple podcasts I can put links to.
sure. I have a podcast called Emotional Savvy. That's what you need, of course. And that's all aspects of relationship help. And then I have a second one called Save Your Sanity, Help for Handling Hijackals. So that's distinctly for people who have had a parent or an ex or have a partner, coworker, friend who has these nasty, crazy making behaviors that go along with hijackals, and really shedding light on that. And I also have a YouTube channel, quite popular YouTube channel. You find it at For Relationship Help.
Awesome, for relationship help. And so we'll put those links down in the broadcast. You guys can find it. And I thank you for coming on the show and giving those wonderful tips and encouragement for people to, really pay attention. Don't step over it. Pay attention to the stress. Pay attention if you're feeling that way. Don't ignore it, because it does build up, and you don't want that to end up as a consequence in your body. So thank you so much for contributing your wisdom. I appreciate it. Many thanks.
Thank you.
I hope this was helpful to everybody out there, and tune in next time on Skills Not Pills for some more wisdom from another expert. And thank you so much, Dr. Rhoberta.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everybody.